Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now this is the alternative version of last week's video, which was using the thermal massager. I know that you like it when I talk and give you the demo with a chat, so this is the alternative because last week it was just the music. So as you can see, I'm oiling up the back, and if anyone's interested, it was actually the Beauty Kitchen oil that I used here. Not too much oil because we're using the machine. If you saturate the back with oil and you're using these machines, you tend to find that you get too much slip and slide and you can't really control what you're doing. And I should mention, if you didn't know already, that we're filming again in the Gin Spa in Glasgow. It's a lovely location, it's so tranquil and peaceful, and it's really nice to be able to use that location, so thanks again to the Gin Spa. All we're doing here is getting the client used to our touch. It allows them to relax and begin the process of calming down. It prepares the tissues for what you're about to do. And obviously it's helping you to distribute that oil so that when you use the machinery, you've got the slip and slide there. But again, with this particular thermal massager, you don't actually have to use oil and you don't have to use it on the skin. You can actually use it through clothing. You also don't need to be lying down. You could be sitting on a chair, you could be lying on your settee or on the floor. But I think it's nice to show this in a salon environment too. So we're just using some effleurage. Also, when I'm doing this, because it's a salon environment, I am sussing out the client's muscular tension. I'm finding if there's any knots. I can feel here if there's any areas where it's a bit crunchy, a bit tight, a bit tense. So it's allowing me to not only relax the client, but to gauge how they feel too. Are they a bit jumpy? Are they tightening up their shoulders? Is there any tension when we work on certain areas? Do they wriggle a bit? Do they jump? But as you can see here, our client was extremely relaxed. I should also point out it was the hottest day of the year and we're using a heat treatment. Now, as you can see, I've turned on the machine. Now, because it's a mains supply, we're being very careful here. We're also making sure that there's no water in the vicinity. The heat is instant, and the reason why I start at the shoulders initially and work down is because the base of the back can be a little bit too sensitised. So if it felt okay to me, but it was a bit too warm for the client, I wouldn't want to start at the base of the back because they could actually jump with the heat. So if you start at the top of the shoulders and just work down just initially, you can ask them if the temperature feels okay and adjust it accordingly. As you can see, it was absolutely fine, and that's when we then started at the base of the back and worked up. Now what you tend to do is just follow your usual massage pathways, your normal routine. You're always thinking about lymphatic drainage. You're always working about just the methods that you would normally use when you're doing your variety of massages. And I took it a little bit further down onto the arms because it's a heat treatment and I want to make it luxurious. I want to make it relaxing and I want to make it effective. So a lot of the time when you're using these heat treatments, it's a really nice feeling to work up the neck, but also along the arms, as far down as the elbows. We're not using it too briskly, we're moving it quite slowly, and again it's because we want to get the effects of the infrared and the heat. And because it's coming from an electrical supply, there is a cord. So as you can see, I'm just being very mindful to hold the cord so that it's not resting on the skin. Sometimes it can be irritating or it can be ticklish and we don't want that. So don't be afraid just to hold the cord and work with it. And I find it quite comfortable to hook it around my thumb and then just adjust it as necessary. And again, there's no right or wrong way to use this type of machine. So sometimes I'm using it long ways, sometimes sideways. It moulds quite nicely into a variety of areas. But again, it doesn't matter if all of the different elements, as you can see, we've got our little jade stones there that the infrared's coming out of. They don't all have to be touching the skin simultaneously. So there are some areas where it's only the end stones are actually making contact, but that's fine because they're doing what I want them to do. But then there's other parts where it's the base of the back where they meld completely. In the nape of the neck, all of them meld completely. That's great too. Now I asked my client if she could feel the temperature and how it felt to her, and she said it was very consistent, and that obviously in some areas you feel the impact of it more than others, especially if you're very sensitive, and that would be possibly along the spine, never on the spine, alongside it, and at the base of the back where it is a little bit more sensitive. But it was never too hot. It felt like a controlled heat. And again, even though it was a very hot day, the heat did feel very relaxing because it's in that relaxed environment doing the massage, everything's controlled. And we were playing about with the machine a bit. We were doing little movements, we were doing circles with it. We weren't doing pressures as such because again, you don't want to use the heat and press it into the skin unless you've got the protective glove on it. But definitely moving it to do circles, to do some targeted movements on muscles, on some areas that you know are quite tight. Again, because you've got this machine and you're using it for your own benefits at home, or if you're using it in the salon, you're effectively introducing it into a Swedish massage or into a deep tissue. The choice is yours in how you want to use it. But it's very nice just to be guided with either what feels quite tense or what is traditionally a tense and tight muscular area when you're used to working with clients. Or if you're just using it for yourself or using it in between the family, maybe you're just using it in the household, on each other, or when you want to use it on yourself. You're just guided by what feels good and what feels right for you. Using it myself as a therapist, it's just very comfortable. It's comfortable to use. Your hand sits nicely around it. It's not heavy, it's not clunky, it's not awkward. It's just a nice size, nice shape, no issues at all. I would say actually it feels quite similar to when you're using something like the Audiosonic, the only difference being that there's not a vibration with it. But if you're comfortable using anything such as the Audiosonic machines, then it feels just as comfortable. It just fits nicely in your hand and it just becomes an extension of you when you're doing that massage. As we said before in a previous video, what's handy for either the client or the therapist, depending on why you're using it, is, and again, I love hot stones, but sometimes the feedback on hot stones is, I loved it because the heat was beautiful, but it's when the heat starts to dissipate and then you then stop using the stone once it's too cool. So with this, you've got the constant heat. So that is a benefit. But again, I would say it's something to add to your complement of therapies. If you've got lots of different therapies, lots of things on offer, then this is another thing that you can add to your treatment menu. If you're buying it for yourself, it's another way to introduce an additional form of massage into your routine. If you've got one or two machines already, maybe you've got the infrared massagers where the massagers themselves go round in circles, then this is another one to add because the actual elements are not moving. It's you that's controlling that constant heat. So it's maybe a little step up because it's a bit more independent. It's you that's choosing how long you focus that heat on that area. It's you that's choosing exactly where to focus on, rather than just leaving a machine to sit in an area and do the work for you. As I've always said, they're all great. It's about knowing when to use one and why you want to use it for that particular time. But this one's effective, especially if you've got those classic tight areas. Just being able to spend a bit of time with the heat and with the jade stones, just the multi-attack, if you like, to those areas that are causing you any pain or irritation or tightness. So you've got your multiple ways in which you're dealing with it. And then again, we're just using it here. We are doing some drainage movements. And not only is it draining, but it's an effleurage move. It's relaxing. It's moving that heat all along that exposed back area. Moving it along the neck. And you can just imagine everywhere where you take that machine, you've got a nice, soft, constant heat. Good thing is too that it's not irritating, it's not ticklish, because the way it's formed too, you can't be too light with it, but you also can't be too heavy, so your control is comfortable. But you can always be guided by someone because everyone is different. So if you're working on yourself, you know the pressure you want to use. If you're working on someone else, just ask them. But try and ask at the beginning in case they do actually like to zone out and even fall asleep, because you don't want to be asked every 5 minutes if it's okay. So just try and do it at the beginning, and then you'll gauge it, and then you can let the relaxation really kick in. But again, just up and down the shoulders and on the arms. The arms do tend to cool quite quickly when you're doing a massage, and you can really feel the temperature change. So quite frequently, if you just move on to the shoulders and the arms, it's a nice little injection of heat. It's a really nice addition to any massage if you just every so often go over those shoulders. And then we're just adding our protective element on. If you watched the previous video when we were chatting about it, just putting this sock or glove, however you want to refer to it, all it is a protection so that when you are spending a little bit more time in an area and controlling the heat, then it's not, we'll put it this way, you remove the danger that you might worry that you could overheat an area. Now, if you're working on yourself, it would be very hard unless you had any nerve damage. It'd be hard to work on an area and have it too hot because your nerve endings would let you know. But sometimes when you're working on others, if you are holding the jade stones for any moment in time there and you're not moving it, there is always that worry that you might overheat an area. So when you apply the protective barrier, you remove that risk. It also means that you can spend a little bit more time, maybe even holding it just for a few seconds on a zone if there's a particular tightness or a particular soreness there. But I still prefer to keep it moving. It feels nicer to keep it moving too. But consider that a safety element, just so that when you're, especially when you're working on the neck and moving into the head, that there's no fear that you're building up too much of a heat there. And it's not irritating on the skin as well. That's quite good to know because you don't want to put something on and then feel as if you've irritated the skin. Now you don't have to, but I like to finish with another bit of manual massage. There's still heat within the skin, but just easing it off and loosening it manually also lets you feel if there's a difference, lets you feel if there's any more work to be done. But again, this is optional, you don't have to do this. I do feel it's a really nice ending to any massage. And then when you're finished, and it's always nice just to finish off at the base of the back, just give it a final stretch. Not only does it let a client know that you're coming to the end of the massage, but it just feels really good. Almost feels as if you're completing the cycle. You've started manually, you've introduced that mechanical element, and then you're finishing manually. It just gives everything a lovely stretch out. And I'd say for a machine like this, you can use it as frequently as you like every week, or you could add it into your routine. If you've got any ailments, maybe even use it a couple of times a week on those particular areas, or just use it as a little treat for yourself. But it's a lovely addition to any kit. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks again to the Gin Spa. and I will see you again soon.